are continuing our last interview. Where we left off last was Marlene telling about her family history, and then now today we're going to finish up with Sue and your family history, your specific family history, your husband and your children and that type of thing.
Okay. Well, my name is Sue Ellen Davis, and then I have several other names, but I'll tell you that I was born in Fort Lupton, and actually my sister was born in Fort Lupton in the birthing house, but I was born in Greeley. Yeah, and all my family lived here in Fort Lupton. So my grandmother on my mother's side and grandfather were the Burges. That was Wiley and Edith, and they had a farm west of town, just across the river. And then my other grandparents on my dad's side were the Davises that lived out on, which is now Road South Denver Avenue, and then off on across the tracks east, and it's Road 12, 14, 12, no, 10, Road 10. I'm sorry, I'm not prepared. I should have thought that out.
Well, we still call it Davis Lane.
Yeah, we call it Davis Lane. So do all the older people do. My grandparents met in a strawberry patch. My grandmother, Ruby Davis, and her sister, Daisy Counter, she was out in the strawberry patch, and there was a snake, and she picked it up and threw it, and that impressed my grandfather because that was his property, and he was growing strawberries, and they were out there picking, and so that's how they met. Anyway, so let's see, I went to school to Fort Lupton, loved it. I love Fort Lupton, graduated from Fort Lupton High School. My dad was in the service, his name was Jack Davis, he was in the Army, and so my parents divorced when I was 13, and he remarried, and his new wife was Dorothy, and she and he were in the service together because she had been a WAC in the service and he was in the Army. So anyway, they were going to be going to Germany, so after I graduated, I went to live with them in Fort Campbell, Kentucky, and got to get ready and go get the 13 shots to go overseas. 13 injections. Anyway, so we ended up going to New York City before we left, and my grandfather Davis came to visit with us, and he and I toured New York, and we went, and when he got off he had a taxi bringing him from the airport, and when he got out of the taxi, the porter at St. George Hotel, New York City, was there, and he was helping him get his luggage, and he put his hand out for a tip, and my granddad gave him a dime, and the guy looked at him and he said, "Sonny," my grandpa said this, "Sonny, where I come from, that's big money."
A dime?
A dime. That was in the 50s, 57, 1957. Anyway, I've always remembered that, because that was my granddad. So anyway, we got to go to Germany, and we went to Bad Kissingen, Germany. I made a lot of friends there that were German friends, and a lot of the girls, they were my age. And Bad Kissingen was a bath place where they had hot water baths, hot water springs, because they had like 4 swimming pools that people would go to, and people would come from all over to go swim in those baths, and met those friends there. And then, see, I was kind of the bad sheep of the family, because I got pregnant there, and came home and had a little baby girl, lived with Aunt Nancy and my sister, and had a little baby girl, and then I married Bill Koonsman. That's where the Koonsman comes in, and had a son, and Bill and I were married for 3 or 4 years, and then we divorced, and then I worked. My mom helped me get a job with she helped me get educated with a medical assistant degree. So I got that, and so I was able to work in doctor's offices or in hospitals. So I worked in hospitals. I worked in St. Anthony's at that time, and I was a phlebotomist there. worked there quite a while. And then I had a babysitter, and I had vacation, and she had family in Florida. So she said, well, why don't we go I said, I don't know what I'm going to do on my vacation. And she said, well, why don't we go to Florida? And she would go with me. And she was a kid's aunt, and so, no, she was my babysitter. So anyway, we went to Florida, and I met another husband. His last name was Johnson. And so I married him, and had a girl, Jelina. Jelina is named after our great-grandmother, Jelina Burge, who's out here at the cemetery. And we weren't sure how to spell her name, so my Uncle Bud Penfold, Nancy's husband, went out there to see how to spell her name, Julina. And so he called her Tombstone all the time when she was a baby. Anyway, so we lived in Florida for quite a while, and then I divorced him and came home. And so then I came home and was never going to marry again. I mean, twice is enough. And so then the Counters, both the Counters' parents had died. And so the boys were out there, Dana was out there getting ready to have a estate auction. And my present husband, Joe Hubert, was there, and he asked Marlene, we were all in having coffee in the house with the Counters. Anne was Marlene's age, and Dana was there overseeing the auction. And the youngest sister, Christine, came in and said, Joe wants to know what the story is about you, Sue. Do you date? Are you married? What's going on? You know? And I said, I'm not interested in any man. And Marlene said, well, who is it? And she said, it's Joe Hubert. And Marlene says, oh, he's really nice. so anyway, when he came out, he asked me if I'd like to go on a date. And so we went out to dinner. And I found out what real love is, because he's a wonderful man. It just almost makes me cry, because he's such a fantastic person.
Third time is the charm.
Yeah, the third time was a charm. Yeah, too bad it took that long to find you. But anyway, I'm very, very blessed to have him to be my husband. So he had 2 boys. His wife had died of lung cancer from smoking. And he has 2 boys, and then I had the 3 kids. So we married. The oldest daughter had gotten married by then, and my son was in the Army by then. I think he was just out of the Army. And then Julie was still in high school. So she graduated, and then we moved to Fort Collins, because we lived here in Fort Lupton. And I worked at Golden Aluminum at that time, because when I came back, I had all the nursing education. I'd worked like 20 years in nursing. But I applied at Golden Aluminum, and then I applied at a hospital. And they both called me the same day, and the hospital was in Denver. And so I'd have to drive to Denver and back, and Golden Aluminum was right here. And I thought, well, I'll take the one right here. Plus, it was run by Coors at that time, and they had very good insurance and good pay. Yeah, so I worked there for 18 years. And Julie graduated from high school here. The others graduated in Florida, the other 2. Yeah, so then, let's see, what? I've always been a volunteer everywhere I went. I did Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, 4-H, church. Always volunteered in church for Sunday school and in choir. When I was young, I sang a lot and got to go to all-state choir in high school. So I love to sing. I don't know. Where do I go from here? From now?
So
to now?
You talked a little bit about your children, and you have grandchildren as well.
Joe and I lived in Fort Collins until he retired. He taught 30 years at Front Range Junior College. And so then we moved back here to Fort Lupton. And it was just like coming home for both of us, because he went to high school here and graduated from here also. So, and we bought Aunt Lois's house, and because she was ready to move into town. And she built a duplex. And so we bought her house and moved out there, and it was wonderful. We just had a good old time, got back involved with our church and all our family things. Missed the family so terrible. I have to tell you, when I was in Florida, I missed the fresh air, and Marlene sent me a box. I have a wonderful sister, by the way. She takes good care of me. She sent me a box with a big plastic bag full of cool air from Colorado.
Oh, that's very sweet.
She also sent me some of the ash from when the volcano in Washington, in Oregon, when Oregon's volcano exploded. She sent me a little vial of
on
ash.
our cars in Fort Lupton.
Really?
Black ash.
I still have some.
Yeah. A lot of momentous things happened. Let's see. When I was in Florida, I had a sister-in-law who didn't take care of her children. She had a lot of kids, and she had mental problems. But the kids would call me constantly, and I'd be working, and Aunt Sue, don't have anything for supper. Aunt Sue, I'm sick. And the school would call me and say, the kids are not dressed right or something, So I'd get them every weekend, and I'd do all their laundry for them and everything. But when it just came to the point where I went to a lawyer and got custody for them. And that was a girl that was a year older than Julie and a boy that was a year younger, Lisa and Michael. So my son's name was Michael, so we had Big Mike and Little Mike.
Oh, okay.
And they're still, I consider them still part of my heart. I mean, they're part of my kids. They still live in Florida, both of them. But I love them. I've had them for 8 years, so.
Oh,
So when I left, they didn't want to come with me because they had never had much contact with their dad. And that Christmas, he had given them both, he stopped by the house and gave them both a roll of quarters. And that was the first contact they'd had with him in like 7 years. And so that just, and so then I said, I'm going to move back to Colorado. And they said, well, maybe we should see if Dad wants us, because that made them think that their dad wanted them. And so he said he would take them, which was a big mistake. I shouldn't have let that happen, because I had custody of them. But he did take them, and I'm so proud of both of them, because nobody in their family ever graduated from high school, and they both did. And Lisa has her master's in teaching. She's got Teacher of the Year for their school, and he's in the police. He's a police for the city of Pensacola, and he's in the where the people call in. I can't think of that word. What is it? Where they call in?
911?
Yeah. He's in charge of all that. Yeah, deputy. He's a deputy. But anyway, real proud of them. They're part of my family too. Joe had, like I said, had two boys, and they both got married after we were married, and I consider them my sons, and he considers mine his. He'll wear a shirt someday, and somebody will say, "That's really a nice shirt." And he said, "Oh, one of my daughters. If it's a nice shirt, I know one of my daughters gave it to me," and that would be. And so we're one family. And one time, one of my granddaughters said his first wife's name was Mary Jane, and she was named after him. And she said, she was about 5 then. She says, "Well, you're really not my grandma." And I said, I'll fight anybody that says I'm not your grandma. I said, I am your grandma, and you're my granddaughter. She never said it again. So, people with mixed marriages like that, have, a lot of them, you hear terrible stories. Anyway, it could be, let's see, we had a pastor that introduced us to a church in Denver. It's called Epworth Church, and they were doing the what's the guy's name that did the barbecues?
Daddy Bruce.
No, yeah, Daddy. Yeah,
Daddy Bruce
they were
Randolph.
doing Bruce Randolph's thing for Thanksgiving. They do thousands of Christmas boxes, and so they said they would extend out to here as part of their mission. So I was in charge of that and went every week for many years until 5 years ago. to work with them, and we had a truck. We arranged to have a truck come from Fort Lupton to go to Denver to pick up the Thanksgiving boxes, and at that time they had frozen turkeys in them, so we'd do it. We had somebody from Reinhardt Oil would go at 5 in the morning to pick up the turkeys. So anyway, we started doing that, and the first year we served 500 people here in Fort Lupton. We gave applications to Catholic charities, to different churches, and to the schools. And people, all they had to do was the first year we did it from the high school, or the old high school, it's middle school now. We did it from that gym, and it was a huge snowstorm. And the turkeys were in separate boxes. And we had all the food in the gym. So we had the box in the gym, and then we had to go out to the truck and get the turkey. And it was just a terrible snowstorm, and people were coming, and a lot of them needed help to their cars. It was, oh boy, we'll never forget that time. So the next time, we started having it at Reinhardt Oil, which they have a warehouse. So they let us park our trucks there. We load them up at the Methodist Church, load the boxes up. And I wrote a grant to United Power, and United Power gave us enough money to buy gift cards so that people could buy their own turkey. And that was 5 years ago. We started this in 2009, but 5 years ago I looked in the boxes and I thought it's just so hard for us to get. I had to go to Denver, every week, and they start like in August, and every week at night, and drive, and my husband would go with me, and but it was just kind of hard, and then when I looked in the boxes, it kept getting smaller, and I looked at them and I said, come over here and look at this, to Linda Hunt, who
Yes.
runs the food bank right now. And I worked at the food bank too before then. I volunteered there for years. But anyway, we looked at it and we thought we could do it because we had to pay them. We had to solicit money from town because they have to pay for the boxes, a lot of it, and for all the logistics. So usually it was about $8,000 that we had to donate to them for the boxes. And so we thought, well, for that much money, we could give them a pretty good box. So we started doing that, and I wrote a grant every year. Then, since then, I've written grants to United Power, and they've given us. First started out with $15, and then we went to $20. And the last 2 years, we were giving them $25 gift cards. So that's a wonderful thing. United Power is awesome, and the whole city donates towards that. The Bank of Colorado, and everybody donates towards that. The different churches all give things. So this 2 years ago, we incorporated with the Knights of Columbus. And so now they're helping us too with that, and they're awesome, they're wonderful. So it's just a great thing. We have the First Street Church in with us, and the Lutheran Church helps us. And we're trying to get all the different churches to get more involved in it. And so we'll be serving 400 people this next year. This year we did 350, and the second day that the applications went out, they were all gone. So there's such a need here in Fort Lupton. So another thing that I started, while I visited Julie in Virginia, I always would go to food banks because I worked at the food bank, I volunteered there, here. And I'd like to see how different people do things. And they had a program called a backpack program. And so here we are. They're giving them the food. They get food for kids for on the weekend. It's weekend food for kids.
Right.
So we started in Arkansas with a nurse that saw a lot of children came to school on Monday mornings and didn't have much food. And they'd have headaches and stomach aches. And she'd find out after talking to them that they didn't have hardly any food over the weekend. So she got the Boy Scouts started in Little Rock, Arkansas, making bags for them for the weekend. Came home and talked to Mr. Paler here at the school and said, do we need it? He said, when can you start? So we started at Twomley first with 30 kids, and now we're giving 147 kids backpacks every weekend with all the schools. And all the other schools, after a couple of years, they heard about it and they wanted, we've got kids here that need food. Okay, we'll do it. And so I've written a lot of grants for that. I wrote a big grant for the food bank, $50,000 for Mumford at one time. I've written a lot of grants. But And this year, back to the turkey boxes, I got one from Safeway, Albertsons, for pies for the people. So we got enough money to give everybody a pumpkin pie. So, I mean, there's just so many things that there's so many needs out there that it's hard to reach them all. You know, it is. So when I reached 80, I told everybody that I worked with blessings in a bag, that it was time to find somebody to take it over, and nobody took it over. And so a friend of mine, Donna Howard, lives out south, I guess you'd say southwest. There's a group of women out there called Country Circle, and they meet once a month, and they're all farm wives. And so she talked to them, and there's one lady that is, her husband and her have a business called, it's a construction business, and it's in Henderson. And she was interested. And so she came and worked with us for about 4 months, and she said, I think BT Construction could do this, because she said every year we take 10% of our earnings and give it to nonprofits. And so at that time we were working it through the church, and so it needed to be with a nonprofit, because you can get, the World Food Bank is amazing, because we can get food from them that you just pay maintenance on, so like 18 cents a pound. Like for a jar of peanut butter, that's a pound, and if you pay 18 cents for it, it's amazing.
Right.
So, and peanut butter, we always give that out when there's a long weekend or a holiday, because I figure the kids can get protein. Our goal was always to have at least 70% protein in for kids. Anyway, so then I think my sister was involved in that and put me up for an award, and she got one too for the city, for the county, Weld Women. And so I got that award, and that was lovely. I mean, you don't do these things for awards, but it was lovely to get the word out to people that there's a need. There's just a need. So Mary took over, and now they're out there. They moved out. We moved out from the church property and moved out to a garage that they had, a whole garage. So we were in a little room. I can't even tell you. It was probably 12 by 10 maybe, and serving 100 and some kids all the time. So out there we've got a whole garage, and they're wealthy, and so they were able to furnish that garage, put a wood floor in, put a bathroom in, sink, heat, and air conditioning, and it's wonderful. So that's that story.
Wow.
And the turkey boxes is another story. Is that what you were talking about? That one? Another one? Oh, gee.
No, when she first came to town, we both grew up at the Methodist Church, and when she first came to town, she took over the treasury, set up the computer system and everything. They hadn't, and this was in what, 85. They were still doing paperwork, and computers were new.
Right.
But she had been doing that in Florida, and she got them all set up on the system they're still using.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. One of the elders of the church came to me and said, Sue, do you do your own checkbook, or do you pay your bills? And I said, yeah. He says, well, we want you to be treasurer. And he handed me this big ledger.
Oh, fun.
Everything was handwritten. So we did started out the computer system in the church. Yeah, I got that going.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And I'm going to butt in again.
Okay.
I think when we first started, we were both raised, Grandma Davis, service is the price you pay for the space you occupy. We were raised with that. Both grandparents did. And Dad went to service, but Mom was always doing things. And we basically had no choice.
It's in our
But
blood. I
we
think
grew
it's
up-
just in
we
our
grew up with it.
hearts. Yeah, it's in our hearts. I don't know. It's just the way we are. And Marlene and I both are that way. Yeah.
Okay, now tell them about Hope House.
Okay. So in 2013, when at the Methodist Church called me and said, I don't know what we're going to do. I just had a mom come in with 2 little girls, and she doesn't have any place to go. What are we going to do? We need to do something, you know. And so I went over and we sat there, and I said, okay, so this was a young mother that had 2 little girls, and she was living with her boyfriend, and they got in a fight, and he kicked them out. And they were living in their car. And then she'd gone over to, the tears ringing now. So then, I went in to talk to her. And so I went over to talk to her, and I said, well, let's put an ad in the paper and see how many people we can get who are interested in a homeless shelter here in Fort Lupton. So we did, and we had 30-some people come. And it was amazing because we had policemen, we had school teachers, we had people from different churches who came. And so it was amazing that so many people had thought about this but didn't know what to do, that there are homeless in Fort Lupton. So we formed a committee and started working on it, and it took us 2 years. So 2015, we opened up Hope and Miracle House, and that's the Miracle House that's right across the street from the Methodist Church to the south on the corner. And the reason it's called Miracle House is because we needed that space for Sunday school. We have so many kids in our youth program and in Sunday schools that we needed more space than what was in the church. So we had a big campaign for that, and we were able to pay cash for that house. It was amazing. So it was a miracle, you know, that we got that house. And then we thought, well, what can we name it? And we're going to name it Hope. Hope because it gives hope to the homeless. So we have served, oh gee, I should have been more prepared for that. We have served thousands, not thousands, but probably almost 1,000 people, families. We said families because this was a family, mother with children, and that's what we wanted to serve, families with children, somebody with children. And you could specify and just have someplace. We went around to all different communities to see what they have for homeless. And you can specify and just have women or just have men or have everything, you know. But she had, the little girl, the mom that came in with her 2 kids had gone to the one in Denver, and it was a open gym with all kinds of people. And so she had these 2 little girls, and she woke up and because her little girl made a noise and some man was trying to get rid of her little girl. So we decided we weren't going to have any open thing. We're going to have single rooms for them, you know. And so the church said, well, at that time we didn't have as many kids, and we weren't using the building that much. Wheels on Meals was using it, and then we used it for meetings, so that was all, you know. So we thought, okay, it's got, well, Blessings in a Bag was in there too. That was our backpack program. That's where it was too. So, but that Steph left another room, and then there was an upstairs with 2 rooms, bedrooms. So we had 3 rooms that we could give somebody that had a bathroom, and had a kitchen, had a dining room, living room. Mm-hmm. And so we decided to have, to use that. They let us use that, and what we pay is utilities. And we still are there and have utilities. There's many stories about the people that come. Most of them aren't from Fort Lupton. We get people from all over right now. The Brighton Hospital found us and sent us mother and dad with twin babies that were 3 months old now, and a little 3-year-old boy. I don't know where I'm on the board, but I'm not privileged to all the personal information, you know, but they just need help. They just need help. So we have them now. Can you imagine being homeless and having 2 little tiny babies? The little boy just got off of oxygen, and they were preemies, and the little girl's eyes aren't good. So, yeah. And then another little 3-year-old boy. It just breaks your heart. I mean, there's just so many, like I said, so many different things that you can help people. You can help people. So it's hard for me not to go over there every day and hold those babies. Trying to stay away. But I also worked for, it was called it's with the state, with United Way, and you got to go out and see new babies. It's gee, I've forgotten the name of it even. Bright Beginnings.
Oh,
It's a Bright Beginnings program, and that's where you're trained and you go out and talk to new mothers and make sure that they know all the things that are in. I did that for 22 years,
wow.
for just around this area, to make sure they know what's available in the county, you know, for insurance or for doctors, for hospitals, the library, books, you know, where they have the little things for kids to come and read and stuff like that, and just to let people know what's around. And I always got to hold the babies.
That's
Hold
the
the
fun
babies.
part.
Yeah, that was the fun part. And there's stories about that too. I could talk a long time, but let's see, where am I at now? I'm about my kids. My son has just found something he's always wanted to do was to write songs, and he's doing that. So he's got a lot of songs on YouTube. And he wrote one about me for my birthday. Marlene and I were up at Larkspur, and he came up and sang it to me, and it just made me cry. It's a sweet song. It's the Queen of the Prairie, if you want to look it up.
What kind of music does he write?
It's kind of all kinds. This is kind of a country song. Yeah. And his music name is Reefa Jones, Reefa Jones. And if you look it up on YouTube, it's a beautiful song. It is. It's lovely. And then my daughters, my oldest daughter was a diabetic, and she died 8 years ago with heart problems. Yeah, and she was an amazing woman. She was on the board with us with Hope and Miracle House from the very beginning. Yeah, she was just like us. She did a lot of things for a lot of people. Yeah, she did. And then my son, like I said, he was in the service, and then he has 4 children now and has 1 grandson. And then Julie, the daughter, lives in Virginia, and she's a busy volunteer. She started the Blessings in a Bag program in their school. So see, it just goes on and on. And she has 2 boys. Yeah, and neither one of them are married. And then John, our oldest son, Joe's oldest son, is he has twin boys, and one of them just got engaged. They're 25. We had 3 grandsons born the same day in June, and the twins were born over here in Lafayette, and Julie was in Virginia. So I went in the plane to be with Julie. She called me and said she thought it was going to happen. So got in the plane, was at Dulles Airport, and they grounded the planes for some reason. I don't remember, it was weather. And so I called, and she said, "Mama, I want you here." And I said, "Go have that baby." So when I got to the airport, her mother-in-law was waiting for me, and she had a sign, "It's a boy." She hadn't checked to see what it was going to be. And the twins were amazing, 2 boys. Yeah. And then the younger son, Chris, lives in Oregon, and he got his degree in vitology, which is the study of vines, and so he works in vineyards. He goes around and tells people what they need for their vineyards, fertilizing or whatever, you know. And
Interesting.
yeah, and he has 2 girls and a son, and they're all. We have. Let's see. We have the oldest girl is pregnant right now, and then has a little boy, and then let's see. Oh, and my son has, Mike has three grandkids. He has 2 girls and 1 little boy. Yeah, grandkids. So we have great grandchildren. Yeah,
Wow.
It's pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. We've been blessed. We have been really blessed. I have been blessed with our kids who love us. We have never had a problem between any of our kids. They all get along, and it's just a blessing. I mean, it really is. They're there for Christmas and New Year's, and we have a wonderful time.
That's nice.
Yeah, it is. It is very nice. They're very helpful. And then we had a Cambodian student come live with us, and he came and he lived with us for about 8 years. our church sponsored him, Guy Shantung, and he is a marvelous young man. He came when he was 17, and it was a family in our church, so they kept him for a while, and then they got transferred because the guy was a truck driver, and then the pastor took him in, and then he got moved, so then we took him in, and so he's like a son to us. And he was there 2 nights ago for supper, and he put my Christmas decorations up, and then he came and took them down. Yeah, he's so helpful. He's such a lovely young man. He's in his 40s now. He always worked. He got a job at Walmart when he first got here, and then he always went to school. So we got him on a student visa. Unknown to us, we should have got him on a refugee visa, because that would have helped him out a little bit. But because now he has to take 12-hour classes every semester, which he loves. We have a basement in our house, and I have 2 bookcases there, and they were full of books. So when he first came to live with us, he came downstairs because that's where the guest room was, and he says, "Oh, I want to read every one of these books," because Cambodia, Pol Pot took all the books and burned them. Nobody could have books. He didn't want anybody smarter than him. I don't know if you've ever heard about Pol Pot, but kind of like Hitler and all those other dictators. Anyway, so he was just so hungry to read books, and he's a math wizard. He's got 3 masters in math, different, statistics, economic, this and that, and he's still working for Walmart. And they've been good to me because he's always gone to school. He's still going to school. He's working on his doctorate now.
Wow.
Yeah.
How exciting.
Yeah. He's a wonderful man. And he's part of our family too. The kids we all love him. Yeah.
This is kind of a hard question because you have so many rewarding experiences that you've talked about already, but what is something you are grateful to be a part of, specific to the town of Fort Lupton?
Let me tell you this. When my husband and I lived in Fort Collins, he noted to me and said, at work, people wonder why I'm always helping people. And he said, then we moved back to Fort Lupton. And he said, now I know why. Because that's Fort Lupton. I grew up learning that. And that's what he said. I mean, it's true. We grew up helping people. His dad, they had a farm out here, and when he goes to different mechanical stores or someplace like, he was in an electrical place in Brighton, and the guy said his grandfather had such and such old Model T. Well, my husband taught auto mechanics, so he loves cars. So he said, what was your granddad's name? And the kid said, Elmer Guthrie. And Joe said, I knew Elmer Guthrie, I'm Joe Hubert. And he said, oh, I used to go over to your yard and play in your old cars when I was a kid, And he says, your dad was the smartest man. He said, we'd have trouble with our hay baler, and we'd call old Mr. Hubert, and he'd come over and zoom, 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 and there it would be tying the hay up again, He said he could fix anything. And Joe said they'd get mad at their dad. He had 5 sisters and 1 brother, and they worked, in the field. They taught beats and everything,
Right.
And so he said they'd get so mad at their dad because somebody couldn't get him to come help fix something when they were working,
That was off.
Yeah, but that's Fort Lupton, I think. I hope we don't lose it because we're getting so many new people that we don't even know, now. But the small town of Fort Lupton was amazing. Dana Counter, okay, one of the men in our church. They had a hardware store, and Dana was a wild child, and was in trouble a lot, and not big trouble, but just orneriness. And he got a hold of Dana once and said, Dana, you better straighten up because everybody in town's watching you. And I think it straightened Dana up a little bit. He still had to go to New Mexico military school, but that's Fort Lupton. I mean, everybody looks out for each other. And I think it's still that way with us, with the older group. I don't know about all the new people moving in, because we don't know them. But
But it is weird because we were raised here, and I don't know what the difference is because there are some people that can't stand it and can't wait to get out of town.
yeah.
So they evidently had totally different, we were very fortunate growing up.
And my daughter Julie was in high school, and some guy was kind of bugging her. And so Big John was a big guy, and he watched after her.
He was a
So,
senior.
He was a senior that year.
He worked for me at the Housing Authority,
Okay.
Yeah,
and he was a gentle giant.
he was a lovely man.
I think everyone's experience probably is a little different, but I love that. I feel like that's a perfect ending to this story is what you just said about the town of Fort Lupton.